Want me to go, David?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, hi, everybody. We're here for part 2 of our town informational meeting. We're not doing any voting. All voting is done Australian ballot, March 1st or before. We're gonna go through the articles. You can ask questions and make comments, and we will start with the school district business. Article 1 is to elect a moderator for the ensuing year. We can skip over that one. Article 2 would be to elect a school treasurer for a 1-year term currently held by Deb Tangway. Deb, you with us?
Deb is not on.
Okay, moving on. Article 3, to elect a school director for a 2-year term. This position is currently held by Kathleen Ahern. She is on the ballot for re-election along with Robert Walls-Tuma. Kathleen or Robert, are you out there? Okay. Article 4 would be to elect a school director for a 3-year term. And on the ballot for this position, we have Praneet Menon, and he is here.
David, let's go.
Oh,
Didn't he say he had the camera over there because it's not over there?
yeah, no, I remember.
Oh, you're gonna say
This is the location.
This is
Okay,
this is
that's
where
the
he's supposed to
location.
be.
X marks the spot.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. So good morning, folks. My name is Praneet Menon. I spent the last 15 years working as an engineer and a project manager for the Army, Navy, Air Force, and a little bit for private industries as well. My experience was mainly in the defense industry, where I spent my time running large engineering projects that span multiple years. In doing that, I've had lots of experience chairing committee meetings to come to conclusions on, either engineering decisions or programmatic decisions that have to do with budgets and finances. Also, kind of teaching me to keep an open mind because most of these meetings had more than a couple of participants, usually in the hundreds. And in addition to that, I am a big believer in higher education. I've myself gotten a bachelor's and a master's in engineering. My wife is a pediatrician at North Country, and my daughter is a first grader at Coventry Village School. So in my mind, as far as the school board is concerned, what I want to do there is 2 things. The first is use my experience from my career to help out with the building extension project, where we're having lots of changing economic times right now, and in addition to that. Just kind of managing the whole thing to make sure that we are running it appropriately and getting the best bang for our buck, so to speak. And I think my experience in engineering and project management will come in very handy for that. Additionally, like I mentioned, I'm a big believer in higher education, and having been to some school meetings, I have realized that we have an issue with literacy. And I know that the current school board has been doing a lot of work in helping to raise that awareness and better our situation through library programs and such things. And I want to be part of that. To help out in that as well. That's pretty much it for me. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know.
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Praneet.
Yep.
Kathleen, I see you're there. Do you want to say anything on your behalf? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. It takes me a while to figure out the technology. My name is Kathleen Ahern. I've been on the school board for 4 years. I am seeking another 2-year term for many reasons, predominantly because I feel like I can contribute to the things that are going to be before the board in the next 2 years. A big part of that is the addition to the school. Our overcrowding situation impacts learning negatively every day. So I am hoping that you will support the bond vote, which will enable the addition. And then the real work begins, because over the next 3 years, we have to plan a school that will serve Coventry for the next generation. And just as 30 years ago, that school board planned for what we're enjoying currently, we need to make sure that we plan a school that will benefit the town for the next 30 years. All we're asking to do is a 10,000 square foot addition at about $3.5 million. And I want to be a part of that. That's very exciting. The school is the heart of the community. And in my opinion, the heart of the school is literacy, library, things that promote literacy. And we have to have the space for the children to arrive at high school ready to learn. The other reason I want to be a part or continue to be a part of the board is an endowment fund. The Edmund Douglas Price Endowment was given to the town for the school in 1999. The way schools were budgeted at that time was why they gave it to the town, but really it's the school's money. And that fund has sat unused since 1999. We need a person who will act as the liaison between the Coventry Select Board and the Coventry School Board so we can tap that money. For as long as I've been a part of the school, the budget in the library has been $1,700. Just using the dividends that this endowment has each year would more than triple that budget. And we need to make sure that we have a librarian and interested parties who will take the time to spend that money to, again, get the most bang for your buck. It takes someone, I think, like myself, who is retired and has the time, the energy, the enthusiasm, the interest to do that. It is a priority for me, and I want to continue to do that. So I ask for your vote for a 2-year term on the Coventry School Board. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Does anybody have any questions for Kathleen? Okay, we'll go on to Article 5. Shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $3,881,536, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year? It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $18,513 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 16.33% higher than spending in the current year. And I can explain that number a little bit. The majority of that 16.33% increase is coming from ESSER funds, which are federal and state funds that we receive as part of our COVID relief package. So that is money that Coventry Town people will not have to pay back. You're not responsible for it. It's just money that's given to us by the state and the feds. We have to show it in our budget, so that's why it looks like we're spending a lot more money this year than we normally do, because we have to be able to show what we're doing with that money that we're receiving. Some of the other increases come from, we have a large high school class this year, so we're paying a little bit more in high school tuition than we do in normal years. And then there's also a 3% increase for teacher salaries, which that comes from the teachers union. We don't have any control over that. Other than that, we were very level funded this year. We didn't put any money into anything because we knew that the common level of appraisal in the town was going to drop, which was going to drive up taxes. We were very cognizant of you know, what people would have to pay for an increased tax. We tried to keep it as low as possible. Did I get all that, Kathleen? Okay, any questions on Article 5? Okay, Article 6. Shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to borrow up to $3.2 million over the period of 30 years for the proposed building addition at Coventry Village School? Now, this is a little misleading too, because as we will be borrowing, or we'll be asking to borrow $3.2 million, the taxpayers' percentage to pay that back is only 20%. So out of that 3.2 million, the town of Coventry taxpayers will only have to pay back 20%. The rest comes from the state education fund. So they will pay off 80% of that loan. So essentially we'll be getting a $3.2 million addition for about $80,000. Any questions on Article 6? Okay, any other questions concerning school district business? Great, we will move on to town business. Article 7, elect a town moderator for the ensuing year. We can skip over that one. Article 8 is to elect the following officers required by law. A would be a select person for a 3-year term. This is currently held by David Gallup. He is running for re-election, and then we also have Amanda Jensen, Praneet Menon, and Martha Sylvester for this position. And I believe, Praneet, you're the only one here, so.
Well, morning again, folks. I'm Praneet Menon. I gave you guys a little introduction about, where I came from and what I've done, and now I'll kind of try and swing that over a little more into what I see myself doing as part of the select board. So like I said, I've had a lot of experience chairing meetings, running meetings, dealing with a whole slew of people and coming to good conclusions that we have, come to as a compromise. And that's something that I think that I can bring to the select board over here. The second thing I want to kind of focus on while I'm on the select board as well is Casella and our financial future as a town. We have a really good deal right now with keeping our municipal taxes at zero because of Casella, but Casella won't be here forever. So what we need to do in the meantime is I believe there's a bunch of work that's already been done in figuring out how much we would need to put into our investments to be able to pull off of that so that we can still maintain our municipal tax at a low value. However, the other part that I want to focus on is now that we know that, what can we do additionally with the remaining funds? We can keep putting it away, which is a fantastic idea. But in addition to that, we want to think about what our next generation is going to do. I'm raising my daughter over here, and I'm looking at all of these things as not what we're going to accomplish in the next 2 or 3 years, but what we want to do in the next 20 to 30. Because to replace something like Casella or to put something in place that can be just as good or change the dynamic of how we do business in our town to be able to maintain this tax burden requires a little bit of planning. Having been part of projects that have been spanning like 20, 30 years where we have to look at things like, I'll give you a quick example. Designing an engine on a helicopter goes from how do we put it on paper to how do we actually build it, how do we actually test it, and then deploy it to the rest of our troops. So when you look at it from that standpoint, it takes a long time. And I have the dedication. I'm retired from engineering, so I have the time. And I know I have the skill set to be able to put my time into this. The other thing that I want to focus on is also the municipal development plan that we had, that the Planning Commission put together in 2018. I went through the minutes of the meetings where the plan was discussed, and one thing that I didn't quite understand why we did what we did was we took away folks responsible for the goals that were set in that plan. And from my experience, things don't get done unless folks are responsible for making things happen. And I feel like because of that, things have kind of languished a little bit, and then COVID hit. And so, things just kind of fell apart from that standpoint, at least in my mind. So what I want to do is increase that cooperation with the Planning Commission, work with them to figure out, one, what goals that we currently have we can accomplish using state funds, federal funds, or any additions that we may get from putting away into our investments. And two, developing that next plan, because we're coming up to 2025 fairly quickly. And that's going to be another big focus. And I think that cooperation between the select board and the Planning Commission, charging the Planning Commission to be able to do all that stuff is going to be quite valuable. And I think there are a couple of other things that I have in my mind as far as emergency services are concerned and police presence in our town. Based on our budget, we currently get about 3 hours per week of police presence. And that includes folks just, the officers just patrolling through our town. And I want to look into and see what can we do to either enhance that or maybe first figure out if we need to enhance it, because there have been complaints of speeding and such other things. We've had some criminal activity that's taken place in recent history as well. So overall, I feel like that's something that we need to look into. And that's something else I want to put my focus on. And that's pretty much it, folks. Any questions?
Thanks, Praneet.
All right.
Any questions here as it pertains to his position for a select person? Okay, we will go on to letter B, town clerk, 3-year term, currently held by Deb Tangway.
It was not with us.
Deb is not with us. Okay, letter C, town treasurer, 3-year term, currently held by David Barlow. Hi, David.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much. I'm running again, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, letter D under Article 8. Oh, go ahead, Kathleen, you got a question?
Do we get to ask questions of
Yeah,
the
of course.
treasurer?
Sure, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
David.
Okay, no, Mr. Treasurer, in the years that you have been the treasurer, which is what, 30 years now? No, I'm sorry, 3. It just seems like 30. Has the town passed an audit? That was a concern that for many years the town did not complete a successful audit, and that kept funds tied up. You can't appropriate them if you don't know if they're extra or not extra or whatever. But could you speak to audits and your work in that?
Sure. Since 2017, the town has audited its finances every single year. And right now, fiscal year 21 is under audit. So we have completed audits for fiscal years 2017 through 2020. We have those reports available if anybody would like to read them. I hesitate to say that you don't really pass or fail an audit, but you can
I know, I
complete
didn't know
one.
the right word.
From 2004 to 2016, the town did not complete an audit. And so we have that under our belts, and we, as far as I can tell, will continue to audit every year. We're about a $15 million organization currently. You need to have annual audits of that size, types of organization. Over.
Third party, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That is done by a third party.
Yes, that's correct. The third party. Currently, we're using a firm that's out of the Barry, Vermont area.
Great, thank you. That answers my question.
You're welcome. You know, you've got my name on your screen.
Sorry, I'm technology challenged and I couldn't get my laptop to work, so I had to borrow the tablet.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen and David. Letter D, collector of delinquent taxes. This is a 1-year term currently held by Kate Fletcher. She is on the ballot, as is Carrie Keeman, and Carrie is here with us today.
Stand in the corner.
Yeah,
The
stand-
window's
yeah.
been backwash.
in the corner?
Yeah.
Randy Murphy.
Just need you. That's good. Yeah, we can see you good there. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm not a public speaker, which is a good thing because this doesn't require public speaking. But I am a good communicator. I'm, been in the Coventry my entire life. I have recently been appointed to John Miller's Justice of the Peace seat. I was on the Coventry Fall Festival Committee. So I just want to get back into knowing my town and, and doing for my, the people that are in my community. I love Coventry. I plan to stay here my entire life. I'm not going anywhere. So, I just like to serve the people. I grew up on the airport road, moved to Route 14, and that's where I stay. And you can see I'm not a public speaker. So however you vote, I just, encourage everybody to vote, and I hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Any questions? We had to wait. Any questions for Carrie? Your signs are wonderful, by the way.
Hey, thanks. My daughter made them for
They're
me.
really nice.
Okay, just Carrie,
Whoop.
sorry.
Sorry, Kat.
It's not really a question, it's a comment. One of your signs, which great, I applaud you, getting the word out that you're interested in this position. But one of my neighbors asked me, was that legal to put a campaign sign on a public piece of property? The one that she was referring to was on a stop sign. I don't really know the answer to that. But I would just make you aware that that concern was raised, and I assume that they will go away after March 1st, correct?
That's, actually, I had asked and told it was told it was okay, but I just ran into Perry Eli, and he told me they actually took a bunch down. He gave them back to me. So I, was misinformed. So when I leave here today, those will be coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Too many rules.
Yeah.
Carrie said he was fine with them, but the head mucky muck was not.
Okay, we're still under Article 8 here. Letter E is Cemetery Commissioner, 3-year term, currently held by Jerry St. Severe. and he's on the ballot again. See Jerry out here anywhere. So we'll go on to letter F, which is also cemetery commissioner. This is a 2-year term, and there is not a person's name on the ballot for this position. So if anybody has any suggestions on who we should all write in, we'd love to hear them. Letter G, first constable, 1-year term, currently held by Pedro Grondin. There's nobody on the ballot for this, but I believe Pedro is interested in the position again. So if you want to write him in, write in Pedro. Second constable, letter H, is a 1-year term currently held by Jesse Testu. I don't believe he's interested in coming back. So we will need to find a second person to be our second constable for a 1-year term. Letter I is trustee of cemetery funds, 1-year term currently held by David Barlow, and he's on the ballot for this too. David, you want to say anything about the cemeteries?
Well, much like the town, the cemetery has its own investment fund as well that was funded back around 2002 by a very generous donation from somebody's will. And that currently is invested through the same financial advisor that the town uses for its own town investment, and is valued somewhere in the neighborhood of 175,000. So our cemeteries are in good shape. We have great people that are maintaining them, and I'm happy to run again for that position. Over.
Thank you, David. Any questions on the position of trustee of cemetery funds? Okay, the next 4 are planning commission members, J, K, L, and M. The first 2 are 2-year terms. The second 2 are 1-year terms. So we have 4 open spots. The only person coming back from the planning commission is Israel Sandville. At the last meeting, Amanda Hussey and Zach Partridge both expressed being written in for the 2-year terms. So if people want to do that, they were actually on the planning commission last year, but didn't get their names in to be on the ballot early enough. But they are interested in being reelected to the 2-year positions. So then we would still need 2 people for the 2 1-year terms. So it's this is an important part of the town here. We really a strong planning commission is important. So if you know anybody that's interested, please have them come forward and we'll write their names in.
What were the 2 names that you said?
Amanda Hussey, Hussey, and Zach Partridge. Those 2, they were at the last informational meeting, and they were on the planning commission, or currently on the planning commission.
They were
Appointed.
So since they're appointed,
Zach's last name doesn't have, it's Partridge, Partridge. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not Partridge, Patridge.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Pronounced it as Partridge,
Yeah.
but without the.
oh, okay. So we're still missing 2 there.
Yeah, but please understand that the ballot has a box for the 2-year term
Right.
and a box for the 1-year term. So, and you get to pick 2 people.
Vote for not more than 2.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on here. Article 9, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $836,294 for support of the fiscal year 2023 town liabilities and general fund expenses, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received through the landfill host agreement. Any questions on Article 9? Okay, hearing none. Article 10, shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the sum of $274,000 plus the Vermont State Aid funding for the support of the fiscal year 2023 Town Highway Fund expenses for summer and winter road maintenance, of which all shall be raised by non-tax revenues received through the landfill host agreement. Nothing on Article 10? Okay, Article 11, this is kind of the weird one here, so. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to split the roads, infrastructure, and equipment reserve fund into 2 reserve funds to be called the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund and the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund to enable better allocation and management of funding by placing $100,000 of the existing fund balance into the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund and the balance of the existing fund approximately $272,000 into the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund in accordance with 24 VSA 2804. So what the select board, what they're proposing here is they'd like to split the current road and infrastructure reserve fund into two different funds. But they need town approval to do that.
And keep it total like the same.
Yeah,
It's
total,
just
so
splitting. the
it's just
charge.
splitting them into two different restricted funds. essentially.
Right.
Why did you want to do that?
To get so we had a separate road and infrastructure.
Yeah.
For paving and culverts and that type of thing, a different fund for that and a different fund for equipment for trucks and equipment. Because then you don't end up having it in one batch and end up spending it all on infrastructure or spending it all on equipment.
100,000 is much for equipment.
It was also looking at what projecting out
Yeah.
when we would have to end up having it. I think it's gonna be a plan to
Chris, do we
put
still
some in
hire,
there.
do we still hire things out?
No.
We do it all
We have it
ourselves?
all, yeah. We do rent like excavators or
Yes.
the equipment that we don't have, but
And we do hire out most of the big paving projects.
Oh, I
Yeah, yeah.
realize that, yeah.
Okay, not,
I'm just waiting to do the airport, right?
I agree. Next year.
I hope.
It's in the plan.
Okay, anything else on Article 11? Okay, so the next two articles, 12 and 13, are directly related to Article 11. So if Article 11 is voted down, then 12 and 13 are null and void here. So Article 12 reads, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the highway fund of $70,000 and into the general fund of $762,000, totaling $832,000 be transferred to the Roads Infrastructure Reserve Fund if said reserve fund described in Article 11 is approved by the voters. If not, the existing Roads Infrastructure and Equipment Reserve Fund to fund, I read that wrong.
into the-
Yeah, and if not, it'll go into the existing fund that currently exists for the future road and infrastructure projects. Everybody get that? I kind of bungled that one a little bit, but. Any questions on
you
12?
have a question.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
So I don't know if y'all will be able to answer it. Might be better for David, but anyway, I'll throw it out there. So does anybody know how much? So I'm looking at this $832,000. And I want to know how that compares to what was spent in FY 2021. I mean, does this represent a lot, a little of it, 10% of it, 120% of it? Does anybody have any idea?
We spent it, so that was
It would have been at 832,000. We spent,
700 something.
yeah, like just under 700, 690 something or other.
And that was
and-
paving.
Yeah, and that was just paving the roads that we paved this year, along with striping those roads. So 832,000 is about, give or take a little bit, say, let's call it 10, 20% more than our sort of regular, I don't want to say annual amount of paving, but our regular amount of paving.
And the plan,
A plan,
it'll be
yes,
the
plan.
it's to cover the planned amount of paving that we were looking at doing.
Okay,
In my mind, I think future years, well, I don't know, maybe we've been putting that much into there. I was gonna say in my mind in future years, it might not be as much, but
But it was,
It's varied a little bit the past couple of years, but we're sort of averaging 450,000 a year
yeah,
on average. Last year wasn't quite as much as the year before, but it's in the ballpark, on average 450, 500,000.
so transferring 832 would be a lot for yearly expenses, right? It would be way more than what's spent on average. I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly.
so it's because we spent the 600 and I think we have a plan to spend somewhere around the same amount for paving this year, and that's why that's a higher number this year.
Okay, thank you.
and additionally, we want to seed the fund for future years also.
Good, Kathleen? Okay. Article 13, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $100,000 be transferred to the Roads Capital Equipment Reserve Fund if said reserve fund described in Article 11 is approved by voters, or if not, into the existing Roads Infrastructure and Equipment Reserve Fund to fund future roads capital equipment requirements. So that's sort of the same thing as 12. If we decide we want to split these things up, then this is where the money's going to go. If we decide not to, then it's all going to stay where it was.
Well, that'll, because that's excess revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
So any question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions on 13? Okay, Article 14, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $35,000 be transferred to the reappraisal reserve fund to fund future reappraisal requirements? Any questions on Article 14? Okay, Article 15, shall excess revenues received in fiscal year 2021 into the general fund of $4,800 be transferred to the Edmund Douglas Price Fund to make up for Microsoft stock dividends paid to the town for the EDP fund from 2003 through 2013, but not entered into the town's financial accounting system? Kathleen, you want to explain this a little bit?
No, let me jump on that mine before I get thrown in. Under the bus. Yeah, it's mine to explain. There's Microsoft. These Microsoft shares were the means by which the Price family gave assets to the town in 1999 for the EDP fund. We've held them ever since in certificate form, but Microsoft started paying dividends around 2003. And from 2003 to 2013, those dividends were likely, checks were likely deposited in the bank account, but we don't have any records to show that to be a fact. But it's likely it happened, and it's not in the town's accounting system. From 2014 onward, it is in the town's accounting system. So this is just a way to make the fund whole. Basically, the money is probably sitting in our bank account already. We just don't have any proof of that. And this is a way to set things right with the fund and move on from there. Over.
Thank you, David.
And all I have to say to that is, as a school board member, I would ask you to vote yes. Our library desperately needs these funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any questions? Yep.
The stock certificates had been lost, they have been found.
All right.
You will not have to pay some thousands of dollars to have them replaced, they have been found, and they are safe within the safe.
Excellent. Anything else on Article 15? Okay, Article 16, here we go, Mary Ellen, you got here. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry authorize the select board to appoint the town treasurer as provided in 17 BSA 2651F, whose elected term will expire in accordance with 17 BSA 2651FC, if this article is approved? So what we're saying here is we'd like to make the treasurer, the town treasurer, an appointed position and no longer a something we vote on.
Couple of the reasons for that is being the technicality of, or not, that's not the right word, the technical skills needed for, especially for a town like us with a $15 million bank account, essentially, to be able to have someone who, I don't want to sound bad, but knows and understands the accounting that needs to happen with it. Position does not require decision-making affected by being a town resident, and state and federal statutes, regulations guide the work. Filling, I'm just gonna read down our bullets that we came up with. Position requires very specific technical skills. Filling the position should not be left to the politics of a general election. The job is technical in nature, not political, and we have experienced what happens when this position is taken over by politics. The town has a substantial financial net worth and requires the best possible treasurer services available at a reasonable cost. Positions should be subject to rapid removal for cause, and the time to make this an appointed position is now, while we have a stable situation. And this is all gonna be done in accordance with the state statutes. So what would happen is if this article passes, the treasurer that was elected would end up. How's it worded? Oh, it's not worded in here.
Oh, well, I would be out.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah,
You have 45 days, 45 days to advertise, vet and select a treasurer or some, maybe even some firm to do the treasurer activities, I'll call it. There's a range of possibilities of what you could do. I will say as a treasurer, I'm happy to support this. I think it's long been needed. We've been rolling the dice with every treasurer election. You just want to take that out of the equation. There's too much at stake, and we know what happens when this position becomes a political position and not a treasurer position. Over.
David, are you still interested in this position?
I am. I expect that I would apply if it becomes appointed.
Mary Ellen, did that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So if this is a higher position, he
Yeah.
gets a salary and all this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming he does now, but I'm assuming it's gonna be different.
No,
Was
it
that
would be,
discussed?
no,
I don't know.
no, it would be the same as
Yeah.
what's in there. It would be in terms of an appointment, there would be no expansion of time or money between the elected treasurer or the appointed treasurer.
same amount of work.
Same amount of work, same amount of compensation.
And this,
I guess I would be a little careful with that because you haven't advertised it before, so you don't really know what type of applications you might get. There might be a local accounting firm or two interested in the work as well. And, it's just tough to say what type of proposals you might get, but I would say it's probably safe to say it would be in the ballpark of the cost. It might be less, it might be a little more, it might be the same.
I don't have my glasses on. I'm not gonna go through this. What do you get paid now?
The town treasurer is budgeted at $13,028
A year?
for this coming fiscal year. Last year it was 12,302. We had a 6% increase on salaries, so.
And how much do you work, David?
I believe they base that on a 10-hour work week.
Yes, it is based on a 10-hour work week.
If we hire someone, if it becomes a higher position, do you think it would be more than that?
Hours wise,
Yeah, I mean. are
if
you-
it's a higher position, would it be more than 10 hours? This should be the same.
I think to get the work done, it's about the same, but it depends again on what the board wants in terms of
Right.
somebody at the countertop. If you're looking for more time, somebody at the countertop to receive people to do stuff, then that's, it's more time.
Because I'm not against this, I'm just asking questions, because if you hire it out, and if you want David to have competition, I think law firms, accounting firms and that are, come close to that.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure David's on board and not leaving us.
No, I am. It's, it's,
No, I think this should be a hired out position, I really do. I've thought that for years. The same as when the board hired and got Amanda and now you, it's like, that's a select board thing, but I think years ago when the same person did everything, it became a nightmare, and it's the same, I talked in here the other night, I said to the select board after, what's your name? How do you say it? Praneeth. When he had gone, I was hoping he'd still stick around, but he left, but to me, I feel our town select board should be someone that's lived in town longer. No offense, I'm not, you're very good. And I also feel that the select board shouldn't have members on there that have to recuse themselves. And I know that's the way it is now, the way it, with the people that are on the board, but I just think the town, as far as this position, yes, should be hired out. Okay, I've said my piece.
Mary Ellen, did that explain everything for you on Article 16?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
So you're saying that the town treasurer is going to be separated from the town clerk.
It is,
Yeah.
it is already.
It is already, but we're not gonna vote on it anymore. It's gonna be a position appointed by the select board. Because we need a treasurer with experience and somebody that can handle our large financial burden.
And I think a key point that was
Is it? Thank you.
is the fact that if it's an appointee, the board can fire that person at any time.
Mm, Yep,
Well, let's hope they don't.
yeah,
And that's obviously as long as Article 16 gets voted as. it
Right.
is.
Well, if they have good cause, then it should.
Yeah.
anything else on Article 16? Okay, the last one here, Article 17. Shall the legal voters of the town of Coventry vote to appropriate the below expenditures for the service agencies in the amount of $16,507. I'm not going to read all of those. You can see them. We had a request at the last meeting to have these separated on the ballot so that each one of these services would have their own place on the ballot, and you could yes or no on each one. That's not going to happen this year, but it's something that they said they would consider for next year. So this year they're all together. You either say yes or you say no. Any questions on Article 17? Okay, all right. Any other town business before we adjourn this baby?
Yes.
Yep.
Our next informational meeting will be at the village school at 5 PM on Monday. Immediately following that meeting, there'll be a discussion and a meeting about the bond vote and more details then. So please stay tuned. We'll be on Zoom again, coming from the school.
Thanks,
Thank
Ned.
you.
See everybody Monday.
Bye, everyone.
One thing with that.